Let's dive right into this explainer because today we're looking at an absolute marvel of modern logistics and human coordination. We're talking about one of the most advanced, perfectly synchronized engineering systems ever built. We aren't just looking at a massive machine here. It's the sheer complexity operating just beneath the surface that makes this so fascinating. We're going to peel back the layers of this incredible structure, look past the steel exterior, and explore the hidden networks that actually keep it alive. To really wrap our heads around the scale of what we're dealing with, I want you to imagine a self-sustaining city. But not just any city. Picture one complete with its own functioning airport, a massive power plant, a fully equipped hospital, a rapid response fire department, and a grocery supply chain that never quits. Just think about all the infrastructure, right? All the pipes, the miles of wires, the logistics required to keep a small town running smoothly day in and day out, literally never shutting down. Honestly, this place is so entirely self-contained, it actually has its own official zip code. Now imagine that this very real city houses over 5,000 residents. That is, thousands of people who need to be fed, housed, medically treated, and, crucially, organized into a cohesive, perfectly synchronized working unit. But, there's one major twist to this specific city, a twist that takes the engineering challenge from merely difficult to absolutely mind-boggling. This city isn't anchored to the ground. No. It is a floating metropolis that actively sails across the world's oceans. It's constantly battling harsh weather, highly corrosive saltwater, and the relentless, nonstop motion of the sea. We're looking at a sovereign piece of infrastructure that can pick up and relocate anywhere on the globe at a moment's notice, carrying all thousands of its citizens right along with it. Which brings us to Section 1, the floating city. When we talk about an aircraft carrier, the numbers almost defy comprehension. We're talking tens of thousands of tons of steel forged into a watertight labyrinth, with dimensions that rival enormous skyscrapers and massive football fields. Literally, if you stood this thing on its end, it would pierce the skyline of most major cities. It houses thousands of people in this incredibly dense, multi-level steel shell. Corridors stretch on for miles, compartmentalized into hundreds of specific workspaces, sleeping quarters, and mechanical rooms. It's a masterclass in spatial efficiency, basically packing the sprawling footprint of a massive land-based airport into a highly condensed, mobile platform. Section 2, powering the giant. So, a city this massive needs a beating heart. Obviously, you can't just plug a skyscraper-sized ship into the local power grid. So how do you feed the immense energy appetite of a machine that weighs nearly 100,000 tons and operates miles from any shoreline? Well, deep within the heavily armored hull sit hitting dual nuclear reactors. These aren't just your standard engines, they're self-contained power plants capable of operating for decades without ever needing to refuel. They pump out a continuous emission-free stream of raw power, driving colossal turbines that push this gargantuan steel structure through the water at surprisingly fast speeds. But propulsion? That's really just the beginning. These reactors generate all the electricity for the 5,000 residents on board. They power massive desalination plants that suck in ocean water and convert it into hundreds of thousands of gallons of fresh drinking water every single day. They run the heavy-duty industrial air conditioning required to keep highly sensitive electronics from just completely melting down. They keep the vast food storages frozen solid, and they illuminate thousands of rooms and passageways. Every single breath of fresh air and every drop of clean water on board relies entirely on these hidden reactors. So here's the million-dollar question. How exactly does this immense nuclear energy launch a massive fighter jet from a tiny, bobbing runway? I mean, a carrier deck is only a fraction of the length of a normal commercial runway. Physics demands an incredible intervention to actually get those heavy machines airborne. Section 3, the airport at sea. The flight deck of an aircraft carrier is widely considered the most dangerous workspace on Earth. It is a symphony of controlled chaos. It's deafeningly loud, it's constantly pitching and rolling, and the margins for error are, quite frankly, zero. Through incredibly strict safety procedures, an 80,000-pound aircraft is violently accelerated to takeoff speed in a matter of seconds. How? By using massive steam or electromagnetic catapults powered directly by the ship's reactors. Meanwhile, air traffic controllers manage a highly complex airspace right above the ship, guiding returning jets to hook onto a heavy steel arresting cable that violently halts them in just a few feet. And get this, all of this is happening simultaneously, with rapid maintenance crews refueling and prepping the next wave of aircraft mere inches from spinning jet engines. Moving on to Section 4, sustaining the crew. You can have the most advanced jets and nuclear reactors in the world, but if the thousands of sailors and engineers operating them aren't fed and cared for, the entire system collapses instantly. The hidden supply chain has to be flawless, serving upwards of 15,000 meals every single day. Just think about the logistics of a restaurant that never closes, cooking breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midnight rations for 5,000 people. The galleys operate 24/7, churning through literal tons of produce, meats, and dry goods. The scale of the cooking equipment alone looks way more like a commercial manufacturing plant than any standard kitchen you've ever seen. The sheer volume of logistics means every single department deeply depends on the others. It's all interconnected. You have fully staffed medical and dental bays performing everything from routine checkups to full-blown surgeries right there on the ship. You've got industrial laundry facilities washing thousands of pounds of uniforms daily just to maintain basic hygiene. You have intricate waste management systems safely processing garbage so the ship leaves a minimal footprint behind it. Every single one of these lifelines has to operate at 100% capacity to support the people who are out there supporting the aircraft. But what happens when the grocery store runs out? Because remember, the ship can't just pull over and stop. External resupply vessels must physically link up in the middle of the ocean to transfer aviation fuel, food, and vital components while completely underway. This maneuver is called underway replenishment, and it's wild. It involves two massive ships sailing side by side through crashing waves, firing heavy steel cables across the open water, and sending pallets of supplies zipping back and forth above the ocean. It is a high-stakes, logistical tightrope walk that ensures the carrier never actually has to return to port. With all these nested logistical nightmares, from the nuclear engineers sweating below deck to the flight crews up above and resupply ships pulling up alongside, you really have to wonder, what synchronizes this massive floating industrial complex? How do you prevent a massive failure in communication from bringing the entire floating city to a grinding halt? That brings us to Section 5, the ship's brain. This is where all the disparate threads of the ship's operations are finally woven together into a single actionable picture. The ship's commanders aren't just steering a big boat, they're managing a massive data hub right on the bridge. They are simultaneously processing navigation, tracking shifting weather patterns that could impact flight operations, analyzing radar data stretching out for hundreds of miles, communicating with fleets of allied ships, and plotting exact navigational courses. The brain of the ship is literally filtering millions of data points every single second to keep this floating city safe and completely effective. And finally, Section 6, the ultimate system. Now, beyond the sheer engineering spectacle, these systems play a profound role in how nations interact on a global scale. Modern navies utilize these vessels neutrally as mobile air bases and highly visible diplomatic tools. In these roles, engineering, logistics, and human coordination matter far more than just conflict. Their very presence in a region can stabilize shipping lanes, they can provide immediate disaster relief support using their onboard hospitals and desalination plants, and they even serve as floating embassies. They are incredible instruments of geopolitical balance, driven entirely by the technological marvel of their construction. When you step back and look at the whole picture, it isn't simply a ship. It's an airport, a hospital, a power station, and an industrial complex, acting as one perfectly synchronized system. We're talking about thousands of people trusting their lives to millions of intricately connected mechanical and electrical components, all while sailing across the most unforgiving environment on the planet. Because in the end, the true marvel was never just the steel hull itself. It was the system. It's the seamless, almost impossible integration of energy, logistics, and human willpower. Which begs a pretty fascinating question. As AI and automation continue to evolve at breakneck speed, what is this floating city going to look like 50 years from now? Will it even need humans on board at all? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.